You know, after we show these to people in these audiences, I bring up things that, well, there was an Adventist evangelist attended a meeting, and by the end of that meeting we had established that God still required us to keep his 10 commandments, because in Psalms 89:34 he says, my covenant will I not break, and that is his covenant. That's why the Ark of the Covenant is called that, is because the tables of his covenant, his 10 commandments, are in there. And then and he says, I will not alter the thing that is gone out of my lips. And I say, folks, we have got to rethink our thoughts on what's clean and unclean, and on whether or not to keep God's 10 commandments that he wrote in stone. And so I went right through a whole bunch of Christian doctrines that amazed this evangelist. He said that you were able to share with those people, and they accepted more of the truth in a matter of minutes after seeing this stuff than he is able to get people to accept, in a big, long, extensive evangelistic series. And so this is what God is doing for us, so that his work can be finished very, very quickly and effectively. And Mrs. White made a comment that she said that the workers would be surprised at the means God would use to finish his work. And so I think she even says the simple means.
Yes.
And so anyway, there is nothing simpler than show and tell.
Yeah.
But there's also nothing more effective than that. And that's what God has provided for us. And Jerry, my friend here, was in a broadcast studio in his hometown there in Paradise, California. And just to show you how God is working, Eric's mother, who I guess they're not here yet, but anyway, apparently she responded to an impression of the Lord to give this fellow on the radio one of my books.
The talk show host.
Talk show host. Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Bruce Sessions.
Bruce Sessions, who is, apparently a lot of people listen to him. She gave him that a couple years ago or something. A year ago. Okay. So anyway, he read it, and along with it, she gave him a great controversy. But anyway, he was fascinated by this archaeology stuff. And so anyway, he had somebody booked for this time during his talk show, a man in Texas that was going to do a telephone interview. And I was just going to go talk with him and show him some stuff so that maybe later he could we could do an interview on his program. But we walked in, we piddled around for a while. You remember, we both said we need to get down there and get this done, but somehow or the other we piddled around. And then finally we went down there, walked in the studio, said hi to a couple of people, and they rushed us right into the studio and said, you can do a live interview for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Right now, they said. And we found out later, or at least I did later, that they had a massive power failure in Texas. And this guy couldn't reach him by phone. He couldn't call out. And so anyway, we did the interview, and when Mr. Sessions saw those posters that we'll bring in here in a little bit, he was just thrilled to death. And I mean, he just praised those things, and so God worked out all kinds of things, including a power failure, so that this could be done. And he put us in the piddle mode so we wouldn't get down there and be told that, sorry, we have other plans. Because if we were back home at Jerry's home, they had already decided that they were going to just have people call in with any questions they had, and, you know, and have that kind of a 30-minute thing. But since we were right there at the proper moment, it worked out beautifully.
Praise the
And
Lord.
so I am seeing this over and over and over.
I'll give
Divine
you
appointments.
I'll give you an example of we were passing out flyers and putting them on the bulletin boards in the stores and so forth. And this friend and I went up to Ashland yesterday, Thursday, and we went to a co-op, a food market, wholesale market, where people from the college hippie style, you know, and New Agers go all the time. There's this big bulletin board out there with hundreds of advertisements on it. And lo and behold, I went to put up an ad, and what did I see? I saw one of the posters that I had made up there on the board. Now, I have not mailed anything to anybody in Ashland. I do have no idea how that poster got up there.
Yeah.
But there it was. And I said, praise the Lord, you
Right.
got it here for a reason. You know, it was time.
Yeah. So anyway, right now God is doing the work in the earth, and if we go to the Father in the name and blood of the Son and ask for forgiveness and rehabilitation, He'll do that. And if we ask Him to lay a burden for souls on us, that will constrain us to, you know, work on their behalf, then, and ask Him to help us reflect His character so He can use us to draw others to Him. He'll do that for us. And Christ says, if I be lifted up, will draw all men to me. And folks, we want to be very careful that we're not among those who lift up themselves.
Amen.
Because human beings can't do anything for other people's salvation other than pointing them in the right direction.
Amen.
That's all we can do. But God can use us if we let Him. We've been, well, let's see, we were in Spokane night before last. And after the meeting, usually it's pretty late. We just try to get to bed and get some sleep. But Ronnie was hungry, and I wasn't sleepy. So we went out and got him something to eat and stopped back by a gas station. You know, it's better to fill up at night and be ready to go the next morning than to have to look around for somewhere during rush hour to get gas. And so a lady walked up to us in there and said, is there any way I could get you all to give me a ride down to where the city buses run? She said, my friend told me that they ran out here until 11 o'clock, but they don't. Well, I'm a little spooky when it comes to that sort of thing. And I thought, well, maybe she has a friend and they're going to get in, you know. In other words, I figured her motives might have been more than those that were stated. So anyway, we decided to give her a ride, and I suggested to Ronnie that he ride in the back seat behind her, and her in the ride shotgun, as the saying goes, in case she tried to pull a gun or something, that we'd be in position to at least interfere a bit. And so off we went. Well, she got to asking us questions about what we were doing there, and so Ronnie explained what we were doing, and she said, well, what are you lecturing on, or whatever. So we got into this conversation about these physical remains of the major events in the Bible, and she was thrilled to death with it, and it wasn't fake, you know. I've been around long enough that at least I think I can spot the fakes. But we took her all the way to her home because I didn't see any buses running anywhere. This was like 12:30 in the morning or something, you know. And so we gave her a book, and that was a divine appointment. And when that happens, those people will be in heaven. It's like the Ethiopian eunuch. You know, if God sets up an appointment, you don't have to doubt or wonder if it's going to do any good or not. It will do good. And then last night, we got done, I guess it was around 1 o'clock or something by the time everything was squared away. And, you know, you remember Steve, he got hungry. And so I took him out to a Sherry's or something like that restaurant. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, when we came back to the hotel, he remembered that he had left all of his tapes and everything down in the ballroom where we had put on the program. And so he was going to go round them up. And I suggested that if he called a bellboy, they'd probably get it and bring it to him. So he did that. And instead of a bellboy, it was a security guard, you know, with a gun and all of this in a police uniform. So he knocked on the door, and I had already gone to bed because, you know, I figured it'd just be a simple matter of knocking on the door, putting his stuff in, and off he went. Well, this box was closed and the lids folded together, you know, like you do to keep things from falling out. Somehow or the other, it fell on the floor and those tapes went scooting all over the hall. It was unbelievable. So in the process of picking them up, this fellow said, well, you know, what is all of this about? And so Steve told him. And anyway, he just is so excited about this. And Steve gave him one of the tapes, you know, that tells about all of this. Well, that was another divine appointment, you know. And you don't see these things coming, but if we ask the Lord to help us be exactly what he wants us to be, help us to know, understand, and be able to share in a humble, caring manner everything that God knows he can use to save those that he wants us to be, you know, to witness to, he'll do that. And then we should pray that he not allow anyone to be lost, that he can use us by some means, you know, to help them come to him and be saved. And he will bring these circumstances about. And since he knows everybody that will respond, and we don't, that's you know, an effective way to work. And back when Jerry and I were call porters in Kentucky-Tennessee Conference, I had read Call Porter Evangelist, where Sister Wyatt says that when the wicked come up around the city and Christ goes up on that white throne and holds up the 10 Commandments, and they all fall prostrate or to their knees at least, she says that the events of their lives will pass before them and they will see the opportunities that God had given them to be saved. And she says many will see a call porter trying to, you know, sell them some truth-filled material. Well, that haunted me. And I didn't want anybody to be in that situation and see me there doing a half-hearted, sloppy job of trying to sell them something. So anyway, we need to bend every effort to do these things. And I'm sure Jerry, like all call porters, has had some wonderful experiences where God, you know, just made things work. And so that was several years ago. And now I suspect that our time on earth is measured in months. And so God is doing this work very rapidly, very much like he did in the time of the apostles, and even more so, as we're told. And today I see an awful lot of those who know the truth. They get involved and distracted by things like the one world religion, one world government, and, you know, and all of these different things. And Sister White makes a statement. I don't remember exactly where it is, but I'm sure you can find it easily. She says, when the work is finished, there will be those who will bring their money and want to give it to the workers to be used in the work. And the workers will say, go to. the work is finished. We can't use your money.